Welcome to the Rat Race to Fi podcast, where we discuss money, mindset, real estate investing, and ways to achieve financial independence. Whether you are a rookie or a veteran needing new ideas for investing or creating side hustles, you're in the right place. Here to challenge you to think out of the box, your hosts, Felipe Mejia and Diego Corzo.
Diego, dude, what's up? So we have Claims to Fire from Instagram today on the podcast. He's a really cool guy. We get into a great story about insurance claim. Now, people might be like, what? That's going to be super boring. Like, no, you got to stay tuned. Listen to that because he drops some huge nuggets if you ever get in a situation where you have to do an insurance claim.
Yeah, no, Felipe, I'm very excited for this one because he also talks a little bit about how he's taking a step back of what some people may consider going backwards, but to move forward multiple steps. So I'm excited to hear him share that story. So we'll get to it.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And then guys, don't forget the Rat Race to Fi course is out. Use the code RR half off. Make sure to go to our website at www.ratracetofi.com and you'll be able to get the course there, as well as a new drop called the the micro tribe. So make sure you go check that out. Guys, stay tuned to the end of the podcast. There's some great bombs here. Let's get started. Jose, what's up, bro? Man, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to jump on the Rat Race to Fi podcast. We're super excited. I know that we're probably like number 2 or number 3 of the podcast you've actually done. I've followed you for a while on Instagram, bro. Real quick, do you mind telling us who you are? What do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I appreciate both of you hopping on and allowing me to bring some value to your listeners. So you guys have a great podcast, and I love that you actually move forward with it so you can share it with the world. So appreciate you giving me the opportunity. So for me, I live in San Diego currently, born and raised in Chicago. Went to school at Arizona State, so I got my party degree in Arizona State. And moved back for a year, realized that I didn't want to deal with the cold and the humidity anymore. So ended up in San Diego. So I've been out here since about 2008. And a little bit, I guess, to even go back to like high school, man, I was a complete introvert to the point that when I went to college and got my party degree at Arizona State, I came back that first break and my uncle told my grandfather, he's like, what happened to your grandson? And he's like, what are you talking about? He was a mute before he went to college, and now I couldn't get him to shut up. And I was like, oh, well, that's good. So there's definitely change. And then I noticed that, and I feel like a lot yourselves as well, I'm sure, you change over time. Like I was completely introverted, but as you start to develop personally, start hanging around with different groups, like you just start to change yourself, and you just develop a lot faster that way. So I found that when I moved away from home, I was forced to, make those friends, make those connections, and just continue to put myself out there because I didn't know anyone at school. And then the same thing with San Diego. There was a girl involved that brought me out here, but that only lasted a short time. And then I just had to, build that friend network from there. So every step of the way, I just kind of built a new network.
So, what sports and who were you in high school? I want to take it back, bro. Like, what sports did you play? Were you jockish? Were you like into, chess? Did you play an instrument? I mean, who were you in high school?
So, I played ice hockey. Ice hockey was my passion. I'm from Chicago, so that was a big thing there. Used to live across from one of the Chicago Blackhawks at the time. And so that was pretty much my identity. And then between the beginning of junior year, I broke my wrist. That healed. And then beginning of senior year of the season, I broke the wrist in the same spot. So I was just one of those that had to call it quits. So that was kind of my first identity shift because everything I did was just ice hockey. That's all I talked about. That's all my friends were ice hockey players, my teammates. And then so kind of just stood neutral. Like I didn't have any real passions in high school, and that's where once ice hockey was over. So then when I decided to go to college, I just needed to get away. That was just kind of the main thing. I just needed to change. And for me, Arizona, very nice weather. Wasn't too bad the way that some of the ladies went to class. There were so it was very appealing to me. So I just decided to make that change. It was something that I really needed at the time, and I just decided that it was the best move for me to just move away and just restart myself in a new setting.
Awesome. So high school, hockey, broke your wrist. Then you went to college. You loved that apparently. What was after college? Then what happened? Did you move back home? What kind of give us a rundown there? Did you just start investing in real estate right after college? I mean, what's the story?
No, I didn't even get into real estate until about we'll get to that one. But as far as I moved back for a year, but didn't realize how much the weather affected me because I was in pure sunshine in Arizona. So when I moved back, it was probably the coolest winter that they'd had in a while. So just felt kind of depressed with all the snow, the overcast, everything. So had a few friends in San Diego. There was a girl involved. Decided to make that jump, and I've loved it ever since. Like I love Southern California. I can have the weather year round here, where I might get 2.5 months of that in Chicago. So I feel like I chose the right course.
Yeah, absolutely. So then how did you find or what do you do right now for work? Sorry, that's what I wanted to know. What do you do for your W-2 job?
So I'll lead up to that because that's kind of where the claims to fire came from. So when I moved out to San Diego, I didn't have a job lined up, so I just did telemarketing just as a temp job. And then one of my friends, they were working at Farmers Insurance at the time, and it paid better than the telemarketing position. So I applied. I didn't even know what a claims adjuster was. They offered me a position, asked me which department I wanted. I was like, well, which department does Heather work in? Because I'll just work there. And then so took the position. Made a couple different moves throughout my career as an insurance claims adjuster. Ended up on the property side. So I knew that eventually I wanted to own a home. So I wanted to learn a little bit more about properties. And then took a catastrophe position, which a lot of your listeners don't know what that is. Anytime there's a hurricane, tornado, hailstorm, anywhere across the U.S., there are specific teams that will travel to those locations to handle the claims because they just come in massive volumes. So I did that for about 18 months. It was great money, helped me clear my debt. I cleared about $74,000 in about that 18 months. I cleared everything. And then when I came back, actually,
real quick before we move on, so you worked in claims. That's like the insurance part, right? Like where if something happens to someone's house or whatever, then insurance claims come in and you guys like help like with that situation, right?
Correct. Yeah, I was the one who, if you had a water loss in one of your rental properties, I'd come in, evaluate the damage, write up an estimate, write you a check there, and then as you got the contractors, they send me the bids. As long as everything was in agreement, then you just get the work done, send in the final.
Well, let's dig into that because that was probably one of the hardest times in my investing career. So okay. I guess I'm about to find out were you passionate about your job or did you not like it?
No, I was just good at it. I was not passionate about being an insurance.
And I want to ask you some hard questions for the listeners.
Oh no, go
feel
ahead.
free to tell me, Felipe. I'm not going to talk about that. But I'm more passionate about my listeners than okay. So I want value, right? So I want to dig this out. And Diego's laughing because he knows what's coming.
Lay it on me.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
I effing hated my claims insurance adjuster.
Okay.
What happened was I had a rental property, and people are going to love this on the content. I had a rental property that I went to Florida, and the rental property stayed renting, obviously, right? And then what happened was tenants moved out and new tenants were moving in. There was a 30-day gap. So what happened was somebody broke into the house and lit the garage. They tried to light the house on fire through the garage because they couldn't get into the house. So they just busted through the garage, lit a dog's house that I had stashed in there on fire. But it didn't get into the house. So there was just smoke damage everywhere because the plastic from the doghouse went into the house. Anyways, caused like $60,000 worth of damage. And like you said a minute ago, the insurance adjuster came and was like, hey, we'll write you a check right now to fix all of this. And I was this close to accepting it. And I said, wait a minute. I've been in construction before. This is going to take a lot more than $30,000. Something's not right. So my first thing was, he was trying to undercut me $50,000 or $30,000. Is that normal or what? How does that work? Because now I even tell my mentees in Rat Race to Fi, shameless plug, take inventory of everything in your rental properties or your personal house, like keep receipts, Be intentional about taking pictures of your house every 6 months, inside and out, because the insurance adjuster is not on your side. Am I right or am I wrong?
So it's a misconception that the insurance adjuster isn't on your side, and the reason why is that here you have to take me as an example, and I'll give you full transparency on why this does not apply. Is because I have no construction background. I was not in construction at all, yet the insurance companies will hire people that have no construction background to be claims adjusters. So in order for someone to truly evaluate and write an estimate for the cost for repair, you're just going on what you're trained to do. So if you're trained that, okay, this is how much drywall they cut 4 feet across the perimeter of the room. We're replacing all of this flooring. We're going to take a sample of the flooring to give you the true material cost for the flooring. Here's what the labor is telling me from this program. It's all programs. So that particular adjuster, just like myself, they didn't have any experience. They're just going off of guidelines. So the estimate is just kind of you're getting started with the estimate. So I could come in, give you the same thing, and that's what I saw. But I'm waiting for you also to get 2-3 bids from your contractors. Your contractors come in and like, all right, I give you an estimate for 30. You get an estimate for, say, 35, 40, 42. Okay, who do you feel comfortable with using? All right, I want to go with the 40 guy, 42, or maybe the other guy's like 60. Because there's always going to be there's going to be a middle ground, and then there's going to be that guy who just wants to make a home run on the job. Right. So you'll always have that. That's why three estimates are always recommended in insurance claims. Even if you have your own like preferred vendor and contractor and everything,
right? You
just want to get a good balance of that. So they send in the estimate as detailed and line item as possible. Then that's when the discussion starts with the adjuster. And I have like 40, 50 other claims that I got to get to. Like I have to get to usually like 2 to 3 a day. So it's not that I don't care about it. It's just like I still have a ton. And I'm sorry if I'm not.
You're good. No, be yourself. Be yourself.
So if you got such a high like volume that you have to get through and inspections that you got to run, you're just trying to get in, give as much as you can, as much of the meat as you can to get that check to you, before I leave the house. That, I'm still waiting on the back end for you to get me all those estimates, because I know that my estimate isn't going to be 100%, but it could be 90%, it could be 80%. So that's kind of where the misconception is on that.
So here's my pickle behind it. And literally in my whole investing career, all 6 years, all 33 units and all the breakdown, this 6 months was the hardest part of my investing career, was dealing with an adjuster. They wanted to give me like $150 for a TV that cost $700. They wanted to give my wife $500 for a $7,000 wedding dress. They wanted to, like, there was a lot of like, they gave us a breakdown of everything in the house that they were going to cover, and it didn't smell right. So I just did a lot more digging as a businessman. And I was like, let me read what our insurance stuff is. And let me look online at what people are saying. And this is a warning to everyone listening to the podcast right now. Don't sign that first check regardless of, I love Jose, but regardless of what Jose is saying right now, do not sign that first check. Wait and make sure that you're getting the right amount, because what happens a lot of times is you're going to get a check and then you're going to get kicked to the curb because you signed already. And you're going to realize that fat check is going to take care of about 50, 60% of what it's supposed to. And then you're going to have to do all the little stuff. I'll give you an example. We had to redo our whole kitchen, like the utensils and stuff. And that ended up coming up to like $1,100 that wasn't in the first proposal. And they were like, well, how much is your kitchenware worth? $19.99 from Walmart. And I'm like, no, we have like air fryers and all this stuff. So what we ended up doing, Jose, was really dope. My wife's really, really smart. So she line by line went through this house that was smoked out. She went and took inventory of everything in our house. We went into an Excel sheet, and then she spent like 3 days, 12-hour days. And she went to Target and was like, okay, utensils, air fryer, fork, knife. Like she went through all the stuff that we had bought, got as many receipts as possible. And then we sent that to the insurance company. And then they wrote us like a $72,000 check versus 30 grand that they offered us the day of. So to the listeners, we want to add value. I'm telling you, if you ever run into a situation where you're working with an insurance company to adjust a claim, like my personal experience was they were not on my side. And I remember after we submitted that Excel sheet, Jose, we got called into what was called a special something adjuster. Like they were saying that we were fraud. They were like, no, you guys did it
Special
on
investigation unit.
Yes, special investigation unit. They were like, nope, you guys are fraud. You guys did this on your own. And that only happened after we rebutted their check to us with our Excel sheet of everything broken down. And they were like, no, you guys did this, yada, yada, yada. We had to go into separate interviews. It was nuts. But at the end of the day, we did win. I feel like we came up on top, and we can get past this part. But I think this is part of real estate, and this can and might happen. So you need to be ready for the fight of your life when you come to that situation.
No, and I agree with you. And that's where, again, like they're just trying to get in and out to pay you. You know, it will come to a settlement, like as long as you submit the documentation. But unfortunately, it does typically happen that you have to submit the documentation to understand that, especially in a fire scenario. Like if you open up the drawers and you have a fire and you have like 10 spatulas, like 10 like wooden like spoons or whatever, and it was a fire, you're not going to be able to see that. So just like you said, you know, for your listeners, go through, just take a video. You don't need to take like a photo of every single thing. Just take a video, open the drawers, take a video of that, open the drawer, take a video of that. So then you can go back and then save it on a hard drive or an external drive somewhere. So that in the event of a fire, for one, the laptop isn't messed up or breaks. And
Yes.
So then, but you can have access to it in somewhere like safe deposit box or whatever. That way you can easily go through that and then go through your Amazon receipts, Target, whatever it is, credit card receipts to kind of get that. But unfortunately, it is a process. But then that kind of leads to what my transition was, in that I got burnt out. Like I moved a couple companies and they just burnt me out. It's a very reactive position because like I could be on top of my stuff, get to Friday and be locked down. Everything's good and everything's taken care of that week. Monday morning when I turned my phone on, though, I could have like 7 new claims, and then it's just back to the grind and like back to reactive mode. So I hated that, and they just burnt me out on the last company I was with. So I decided to go on the contractor side. So that's what I'm currently doing for my full-time job. I work for a national commercial restoration company, and we don't do personal lines, we do commercial. So that's where I got introduced to multifamily, was working with these institutional investors, property managers. And as I got to learn a little bit more about their business model, you know, I sat down with a couple of asset managers and VPs, and I was like, wait a minute. So you're telling me that I can be anywhere in the world, and as long as I have my business running optimized and it's running efficiently, that money's coming every single month? I was like, I got to look into this. So I went down the multifamily rabbit hole, found bigger pockets, and you know what happens after you find bigger pockets? It's just over at that point.
Oh yeah, it's over after then.
Yeah, so that was about, I started my position in 2016, so found bigger pockets 2017, went down the rabbit hole, wanted to do a house hack to start. It wasn't necessarily in the car, just for some, you know, wife didn't agree with the option on the house hacking and everything. So I was like, all right, well, we're going to keep renting. We're going to buy out of state, and then we can buy a house after we get to our first goal. But still found myself in analysis paralysis for about 2.5 years. And then I went to BPCon 19. Again, I had to put myself in something very uncomfortable. I went solo, didn't really know anyone there. Went to that first happy hour in Nashville, got to meet a few people, and then
I was there. That's where I met Diego. Did I meet you?
What'd you say?
Did I get to meet you?
No, we didn't meet there. No.
Okay, yeah, that's where I actually met Felipe for the first time ever. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How long were you both talking before you met?
A month, maybe.
Yeah, very little.
Yeah.
We had very similar goals and how we wanted to impact the community, and we had a lot of vision alignments. So we were like, "This is going to work out. Like, this is going to be good."
Nice. Yeah, that's basically that kind of changed it. And then I got invited to a mastermind, joined that mastermind, and it was really that the first time.
What was that mastermind?
That was the David Green mastermind.
Oh, okay.
And so that was the first time that I heard the 6 human needs, the Tony Robbins 6 human needs. I never really heard that before. And the way that David broke it down was, it was my need for certainty that was holding me back. It was like I was building that savings account and that comfort, seeing that I had a large savings, but it was not doing anything for me because I was losing daily, if you know, hourly to inflation, just sitting there. So I finally clicked for me. And then my son was born in November, so that was the last kick in the pants that I needed to actually like make something happen. So I started putting offers in multifamily properties in Des Moines, Iowa, in October, November of 2019, and got my first offer accepted February of 2020, and then closed March of 2020 on my first multifamily property, which was a 7-unit in Des Moines, Iowa.
Well, it sounds like you moved pretty fast.
Yeah, once I actually like put all the pieces together, and again, it goes back to like I knew what I needed to do, but I just didn't have the right why, and my son was that final push that I needed to actually make it happen. So I knew that I needed to make a change, and that was kind of the last piece that I needed to actually light a fire under myself.
What's interesting too, Jose, is that you went from just reading a lot of stuff online, right, to finally going to an event and joining a peer group, a mastermind. And that is when you actually started taking action, right? And at the end of the day, it's more like, is that accountability that happens when you're on Zoom calls every Monday or whenever that is, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're sharing or you're listening to other people take action. And when it comes to you, like you want to be the person too that says, oh, I did this, not every single week. Oh, I'm thinking about doing this. I've been exploring this, right? And you put yourself in that position. And I feel like that's what got you to go, because you said that you invested in your first property in 2020. We're in 2021 right now, but you went from 0 to 22 doors, right? In, you can say 2 years. So it's really interesting, like what the results are just by surrounding yourself with like-minded people.
Oh, absolutely. And and I was gonna say that what even helped even more than the mastermind was the pod that we formed. And I was in a group that both you and it's a partner with Felipe, and so that pod, like the weekly accountability, it's like highs and lows. I had a peer group that I could share those highs and lows and what my next steps were, and they would keep me accountable. Like, hey, bro, you said you were going to do this. Like, why do you keep pushing it off? Like, what is it? Not really the next domino that you need to work on? Is it something else that you need to work on so they can get your goals a little bit farther ahead? So that really helped the most, was that weekly meeting with them and constantly going over like what I needed to do. And just as you said, Diego, I was seeing what they were doing, and one guy was like just crushing it, like closing burr after burr, and then I'm like, oh, man, I got to get in that.
Yeah, it's interesting because, well, actually, Jose, let me get your opinion on this. How do you feel now that you're on like the other side, I guess, of like, we've already took action and we're doing stuff? How do you feel about paid mentorships? Because, there's a lot of mixed feelings from different people about them. How do you feel about it? And then I'll tell my opinion, and Diego as well.
So for me, I'm actually a proponent for the mentorship programs, because it's something, the reason most of us need it is we need that mindset shift or that assistance to get to the next level, to actually make sure that our mindset aligns with where we want to go. Right. And for me, I knew where I wanted to go, but my mindset was holding me back because I didn't know what steps I needed. So that first mastermind was more of a mindset mastermind. Like, it didn't give me like the tactical portion of it. I had then later joined a multifamily mastermind that gave me a lot more tactical applications so that I can scale. So, as you progress and your goals change, and, you may need to roll out of one into another, or you may need to find a different mentor. But I think it was Brandon Turner said that, you can only rise to the level of your mentor. So at some point you may need to find a different mentor or someone that aligns with your new goals as you develop.
Didn't you just go to Hawaii for one of those mentorships?
Yes. I just got back from Maui in September.
I always wonder, I'm going to keep it raw. I always wonder if people sometimes go to mentorships, and people come to my retreats that we do. I sometimes wonder, like I'm sitting there watching people, and I'm like, I can tell they're going to take action. I can tell he's going to take action. They are definitely here for Instagram and a picture. So like, I always wonder if like people go for the actual knowledge or for the picture. You know what I mean? Like the
that's a lot of money to pay for a picture, though. Huh? I said that's a lot of money to pay for a picture.
Yeah, well, you'd be surprised. A lot of people get off on that, but yeah, so that's cool. My view on mentorships and paid programs and all this is like you're basically buying your way past that learning curve. It's like am I going to spend the next 2 years trying to figure this out on my own? Or am I going to pay $5,000 and I'm going to learn this in 4 weeks? But then I have to implement. And I think there's something that my culture makes me like want to talk about this part where, like, for example, in the Hispanic culture, the dads are always like, déjalo pa que aprenda, right? So it's like, you're going to fall and that way you're going to learn. So in masterminds, it's like, we're not letting you fall, but we're still teaching you. So we're letting you not lose money. We're letting you not. So I'm always like kind of like on the fence of like, should we still let them make some mistakes so that they can learn, kind of like our culture taught us back in the day? Or like, are they going to accept this because we told them? And, you know, did they really learn the lesson? Or are they just going to, if they implement what we said, it's going to work. So just continue to do it. So personally, I'm leaning more towards, look, pay for a mentorship, avoid 2 years of heartaches and losing money, and get ahead. Because what I did was I took 2 years before I bought my first piece of real estate because I didn't know about hard money, private money. I didn't know you could do all this. I thought literally the only way to buy real estate was going to a bank, getting a loan. I wasn't bankable, so I had to wait 2 years to be self-employed, or I had to wait 2 years of self-employment to get a loan. And I was like, man, I could have done 100 different things rather than waiting those 2 years. If I would have paid to be in a mastermind, like for example, Rat Race to Fi, our mastermind's like $4,000 or $5,000 a year, and we meet over 100 times a year in meetings. And I'm like, if I would have paid that, just investing for 3 months with appreciation and loan pay down and cash flow would have avoided me waiting 2 years of waiting, right? So I am way in the camp of like, look, pay for the education, but you got to find the right mentor. You got to find the right leader. If you're if you're out there looking for a good leader or a good mastermind, Jose, what are some suggestions that you would give the listeners as to what things to look for when trying to find the right mastermind, the right guru, the right whatever you want to call it?
Pretty much just what you said. Like, you need to make sure that your goals are aligned with what that mastermind is actually doing. If you're stuck in analysis paralysis, maybe it is a mindset mastermind that will help you get to the next level, or that you need the tactical portions of it. It really just depends on everyone's needs, because for me, the mindset helped to start, but I needed a little bit more tactical on, okay, well, this is what you need to do during due diligence, and this is what you need to do during negotiations, and this is, how to build those relationships with brokers. So, it's different needs for everybody else, but also most of the ones that are out there, most of them you should be able to like pay, monthly, or as it continues. You're not kind of locked into like a year. So, you can get into one, and then if it's not a fit, but stick it out for a little while, because you don't know. It could be one of those weeks where it's a little bit off. It could be like a question and answer week where you may not think you're getting value, but there's like 10 other people on the call. I'm getting a lot of value from that call. So, stick it out. I would say at least like 3 months to 6 months to try it, just to make sure. And then also get into those separate pods and accountability groups so that you're smaller and meeting even more frequently, and having text conversations constantly, and just keeping each other motivated throughout the entire process.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think Rat Race to Fi has a 6 month and a 1 year option. And the reason we do that is a lot of people have told us, like, day to day, like meeting to meeting, Monday to Wednesday, I sometimes didn't feel like I got a ton of value. But then I looked back 6 months later and I'm like, holy crap, I bought 4 properties, right? So it's like going to the gym.
Yeah.
So actually, I don't completely agree with like only having a month to month, because it's like going to the gym. I tell people, like, you're going to go to the gym and you're going to look at yourself in the mirror Monday, and then you're going to look at yourself in the mirror Tuesday, and then 2 weeks from now, you're going to look at yourself and you're going to look the same.
Right.
But you take a picture that first day and you take a picture 6 months later and you were consistent, those pictures are going to be very different. So our challenge to people is like, look, you got to do this for 6 months minimum to see a slight change. And then you're going to continue to see that growth as you take action, but you got to be consistent. And if someone's not willing to be consistent for at least 6 months, then I feel like it's not going to work. Now, we want you to grow out of us. In a year, we need you to be leading people in Rat Race, or we need you to be doing that. And that's what a mastermind should do. Like you said earlier, you should outgrow your mentors eventually, right? If they're mentoring you right, like you should be like, all right, thanks, you were dope, but like it's time to keep pushing forward. So yeah, I think, Diego, what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, about the mentorships, I highly believe that like success leaves clues, and I'll tell you by being part of other masterminds with the guys in Go Abundance, for example, what may have taken them 20 years or 10 years, I have accomplished it in 5, right? And it goes because I've seen the mistakes that they may have done in the past, and they're like, look, Diego, this is where I screwed up. You don't need to do that. Here was the lesson, but do this instead, right? And I feel like surrounding yourself with people like that, and you have to, like, it definitely costs money. So it's definitely, I feel like you have to pay to get into the right rooms, unless you are doing, like, you either pay with your time, like you're a volunteer, or you have to pay to be part of the room and say as an attendee at the end of the day. um, on the other perspective, I feel like your mentors should also be growing, and I feel like if your mentors are not growing, then you're going to outgrow them, right? But for example, I was talking to one of the guys in Go Abundance, Osborne. um, there was one time that I was flying with him on his private plane. He's like, but he was excited, and I was like, dude, why are you so excited? It's like, I met a new mentor. And I was like, holy crap, you're worth over $100 million and you're excited because now you have a new mentor. I'm like, imagine like that growth, right? And I feel like no matter what, if you surround yourself with people that are student of life, you will always continue to grow. And from that angle, like Tony Robbins says, if you're not growing, you're dying. So that's all I have to say about that.
Way to make it super deep, Diego. Me and Jose were like having Diego's like bam, bam, bomb after bomb. We're all like, well, that's Diego. That's
No,
awesome.
but it's so true. And
Yeah.
I think the other thing is, like, a lot of people just look at the cost of a mastermind and they don't
Yeah.
think of like how much value they are getting themselves to grow. So you got to look at it. There will be a cost, just as Diego said. It's either your time or your money that you're going to be putting into. But what kind of return can you get on that? How can you 10x whatever you're paying monthly? How can you 100x that? You can 100x that in like 2 deals, 1 deal, depending on the size of the deal. So you never know like what you can do once you surround yourself with the right people.
Yeah, like really quick, an example from somebody in Rat Race, Anton, for example, he joined Rat Race and he's like, hey, I want to house hack one property. That's my
That's
thing.
it. That was his goal.
That was his goal. And he's expanded so much that he made $100,000 in one day by closing on a flip and doing a wholesale deal in one day, right? So it went from, hey, I just want to do an FHA loan on this duplex, to making 100,000, which is freaking amazing, right? But you never know, when you join a mastermind like that, what is the potential? And I feel like by people taking action and having the right conversations, there's so much opportunity out there.
No, I agree 100%. I always wonder if like some of the gurus did a mastermind like in North Dakota, if people would still go, or if it's like, nah, bro, like it's in Hawaii, we in there. Right? Like, always under. Oh man. No, I'm not giving, if for anyone listening, I'm not giving a shot. I actually love Brandon. He's an awesome guy, great friend. Definitely love what he's doing. He's probably impacted, like that's goals, right? Like how many people can you impact? There's a meme on Instagram that I see that says like, I can't wait till the day that I say I made it. And I remember blocking out I made it to where I can't wait to the day where I impacted 100 people. And like I feel like that's Brandon's life. Like he's impacted so many people in a positive way. What a great guy. Maybe one day I can make it to his mastermind, but those tickets aren't cheap. Well, I'll tell you what. Jose, so where are you at in your real estate career? What do you got going on? What's next? And what growth do you see in next year, 2022?
Yeah, so for me, I basically took like the accelerated stack, as since we just talked about Brandon. So his always was, the stack. You buy, say you get that house hack, that 2 unit, then next year you get 4 units, then go to 8, and then 16. So I kind of did an accelerated stack since I was out of state. So my first goal for 2020 was 21 units. So I hit that with the 22. The goal for this year is 42 units. So in order to get to that, I'm actually going backwards a little to move forward. So I'm actually under contract to sell my 15 unit, so that I can turn that into either a 32 unit portfolio or possibly go to something much larger. So that was kind of one of my takeaways from the the mastermind that I just came back from is that I need to also double down on my strengths. So I'm sure that you both would agree that, you know, everyone has strengths and weaknesses. For me, when you're investing out of state, this is for all the listeners as well. When you're investing out of state, like, you have to have a solid team to execute properly. And you can't rely on one person a little too much than the other one. So for me, I was relying a little too much on the property manager, and things kept falling through the cracks that, you know, under extreme ownership, I wasn't managing the manager and holding them accountable weekly. So for me, I'm partnering potentially with a couple of different people who are stronger in operations, more asset management, construction management, and then I will focus more on the relationships, the acquisitions, the deal finding, so that we can get to closing, because I really enjoy that process, the negotiations, getting to closing. But then once you close, you gotta operate it efficiently and run it properly. And that wasn't my strength. So that's where I'm taking a step back to sell the 15 so that I can move into something larger with some partners.
Are you doing a 1031 exchange by selling the 15 or no?
Not on the 15. My 7 unit, once I sell that, we're making some changes in property management. So I will do a 1031 on that one when I sell it, but not on the 15, just because there was a couple things that went through on that one. But the goal is basically just to shift my capital into another larger asset, so that the purchase of the new asset will offset the taxes.
Cool. So basically, you bought 22 doors in 1 unit in 1 year, right? And
4
now
months,
you're
actually.
In what?
In 4 months, actually.
In 4 months. Okay. And I have a few questions about that too. But you bought those 2 properties, 22 doors, and now you're selling them in order for you to capitalize and buy into a larger deal.
Yes, because then I want to get the goal is to get another 42 this year, and then go to another 84 next year. So that I just want to continue to double every single year. So I'm a little behind the ball on this one, so it may carry over into 2022, but I will get there. So that's the goal.
That's cool. That's cool. And how did you find that 7 and the 15 unit?
So this is really good. So this kind of goes also back to the mentorship. So I the first property I actually found on LoopNet. It was part of a portfolio of 42 units, mostly fourplexes, and then there was a 5 and a 7 unit in that portfolio that was listed at the time. And as I was evaluating the 4 units, because that was my goal, was just to get 4 units. So I just only looked at the 4 units. And then I reached out to a mentor of mine that I reached out to Andrew Cushman, and he's phenomenal in multifamily. So I just started talking to him, explaining the property as I was looking at, and I was like, I don't know if I'm just getting into analysis paralysis. He's like, well, you said that there was a 5 and a 7 unit in there, and everything you told me about your goals are that you wanted to scale to a point where you can reach financial independence through multifamily. If you want to scale, don't even look at the 4 units. Add 1 more unit, just 1 more unit. Either go for the 5 or the 7. The minute you add 1 more unit and you're at 5+ units, you're in commercial space. So you will build a track record by closing on that 5 or that 7, and that'll make it easier for the next deal and the next deal and the next deal, because they may not consider your duplex, fourplex as commercial and part of your track record with some of the commercial lenders and brokers. So between the 5 and the 7 had 3 vacant at the time. Break even on that property was 4 units. So I was like, all right, solid. So I can buy this, do the work to it, and then get it fully leased out, and then it'll cash flow at that point. But my break even was 4. As long as 4 people are paying, then I can cover everything else. So I knew from a risk standpoint that would give me the best opportunity to get out of that fear of the need for certainty, was that I knew that I had enough people paying rent to cover everything, and then there was more baked into it.
That's epic. Just 1 more makes the difference. A lot of people don't realize that, right? Like going from 4 to 5, you're in a completely different ballgame.
It's the same process. I mean, you're still dealing with the same amount of due diligence, everything. The only difference is it's a little bit different on the lending criteria and how you qualify for those. But realistically, it's apples to apples. Like, it's not that big of a difference. But the valuation process, you're no longer also dealing with the comps in the area. You're dealing with how much can you make that property run efficiently to bump that NOI and then potentially sell it for a lot more than you bought it from. So it's basically a burr on steroids once you get into the commercial
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's dope. And then, sorry, I must have missed it. Well, how many doors are you looking for next year? What's your big goal?
So the ultimate goal is, and realistically, when I broke it down, it's not really a number of units. It's just a cash flow. I want to get to a point where I can step away from the W-2 and focus on real estate full time. That's really the goal. I'm really passionate about real estate. It's I haven't been this excited to talk about, like I can talk to anybody about real estate all day long.
Yeah.
And so I just noticed that in myself, that I get so much more excited for the day when I can start talking to other investors like the two of you,
Right.
than anything else. So for me, it's just to get to that financial independence standpoint where I have enough cash flow from my multifamily properties to step away and do it full time. And I know the minute I can do it full time, I can drastically scale. So that's kind of, it's not necessarily like a unit count, but I still have that, 42, 84 unit in my mind because that's where I think I need to be. But I don't think that's really where I need to be to step away and do this full time.
I think that is awesome. And before Diego gets us out of here, I do want to ask one last question.
Yes.
What is with the reels, dude? I love your reels. Brandon has even reposted some of yours. Like, they're hilarious. I love them.
So that was one where I just saw that, a lot of people were getting more traction from the reels, and I was just trying to figure out how I can do it and still make it funny and have my personality come through a little bit more. And I actually took a step away from the reels prior to Maui because I was getting like writer's block, but reel block. Because I couldn't figure out like what to post next on the reels. Yeah. And then talking to Alex Camacho, and I just listened to his interview on your podcast recently, and he just challenged me. He's like, bro, like, what's going on? Like, you have some good content there, but I don't see your face enough. You got to show your face, show your personality a little bit more, so that people know who you are. And that's kind of why I started picking it up again. And then now I'm just having fun with it.
I think it's awesome. I think it's great.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. And so for anybody that wants to find out more about you on IG, what is your IG so that they can check out all of your reels, all of your content?
So you can find me on Instagram or any other social media platforms at Claims to Fire. And so that's insurance claims basically is where I got that from initially.
Now I get it. I get it. Yeah. Before I didn't know, I'm like, what does it mean by claim? Like, I thought it's like maybe you're claiming that you're going to be fired, or like, I didn't know, but now I do.
But that's also like, I wanted it because I was like, I don't know where I want to take this down the road. So it could transition into that as well. So you can make that claim to fire as well, and, chase your financial independence. So Claims to Fire, I would say, on also social media is where you can find me.
Cool. I love it. Well, man, it's been awesome. Jose, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I think a lot of people are going to get value talking about the insurance stuff, masterminds, what our vision and our plan is for them, and what we think about them. And then knowing that you've gone to some pretty high level masterminds, which is super dope. Excited to see your growth next year. Hopefully we can get you on the podcast Q4 next year and just see you've completely blown your goals out of the water. Guys, everyone, make sure you follow Claims to Fire on Instagram. His reels are hilarious. If you can make it into one, I'm still waiting to get to make it into one of his reels, but I guess we'll figure that one out on the back end. Diego, any last words for Jose?
Any last words, Jose? I'm excited to see what 2022 has to come for you as you capitalize on those 40, on whatever units that you buy, because it's really important. One thing that you said was like you're taking a step back to go forward faster, and a lot of people may feel afraid to do that, or they may not, or they think that they're gonna go back and like, I'm gonna feel like a failure. But I really like that you're taking that action. So. Yeah.
No, I appreciate you both giving me the opportunity to hop on this podcast and share some value with your listeners. And maybe, Diego, I might see you in Park City in January. So that's cool. So that might be the next opportunity.
Perfect. Sounds good, Jose. Thank you.
Thanks, Jose.
Okay.
The Rat Race to 5 podcast, where we discuss money, mindset, real estate investing, and ways to achieve financial independence. Whether you are a rookie or a veteran needing new ideas for investing or creating side hustles, you're in the right place.